Welcome, one and all, to the Dreaming in Color podcast. I am Gino Webster, your host.
And I am Tahirah Banks Webster, your co host. Thank you guys for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you here. If you are returning, thank you for returning. Thank you for your support. We appreciate you tuning in. This is episode 4, Gino, which means that we've done this 4 times. Have you been having a good time, kinda?
Yeah, it's been fun.
Good deal. Good deal. So, for those of you that are new to the community, Dreaming in Color is a space for people who are ready to trade a black and white life for one that is rich and colorful and beautiful. We have spent, Gino and I, the past 10 years building our business from $0 and 0 cents to millions in revenue. And now we're on a mission to, through our work, to create a future where anybody, regardless of their background, can not only pursue their boldest dreams, but can access the ideas, the resources, the technology, and the people they need to make those dreams a reality. Because no man or a woman is an island. We need people, we need community. So through this podcast and all of our content, we are sharing the lessons we've learned to date in business and in personal. Thank you for being here. Happy to have you here.
All
I cut
right.
down the intro a little bit. Was that
I mean, it was good. It was fine, to be honest. I
okay?
like it.
All right.
Right.
Appreciate you.
Now, for today's topic, guys, we're going to be speaking about fumbling the bag and what it means. Now, Tahir and I, we have this conversation all the time, amongst others, but we thought that this one in particular would shed some light on things you don't do, things that you should do, and how you can win early and often. Let's
Yeah.
get started. Tahira, in your own words, what do you think fumbling the bag is? Or what does it mean to you?
Fumbling the bag to me is dropping the ball. Like it's a turnover on a play. Is J.R. Smith not looking at the clock
Yeah,
and
that's a
seeing
really
the
good
time
analogy.
running down?
That's a really
It's
good analogy.
that's the bag completely fumbled. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just it's missing out on an opportunity because you dropped the ball.
right.
And that could be a person, that could be a relationship, that could be money, that could be a business partnership. Is it's just dropping the ball, losing out. What about
Okay.
you?
Yeah, I feel it's like not being aware in any given moment and figuring out what your priorities are, not doing something.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is dropping the ball. Um, yeah. And what would be an example or a time where you dropped the ball in business or like just in your personal life?
Well, I think I have dropped the ball often in my personal life, communicating. I mean, even before this recording, I dropped the ball in communicating with you and, sharing just expectations and feelings. And I think that when I try to be very reflective and I value people a lot. So I think a lot of the times I've dropped the ball, it's come down to like, especially in personal, it's come down to losing a relationship or creating friction in a relationship
The
because
friction.
I yeah, creating that friction because I have not effectively communicated or I felt something and I chose to hold it in. And so it's not even always about money, it's just about like it's about managing people and managing
Yep.
situations
And the
in
same is
business.
true with business as well. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah. In,
they in business, you have relationships that you have to manage as well.
yeah. In business, fumbling the bag for me, it could be simple. Fumbling the bag is not sending out invoices on time.
Yeah.
Like and ensuring that our billing team is getting those invoices out. Like that's fumbling the bag. Fumbling the bag for me is not, early up in
Taking
in
action.
in our inaction, not taking
Right.
action.
Inaction, right. Inaction. Something that
You
does not propel you forward.
does not propel you forward. And we won't call the name of the company, but years ago. I remember you for like 9 to 12 months straight telling me, babes, you need to send a proposal. Babes, you need to send a proposal. Babes, you need to reach out. You need to reach out. And I completely fumbled the bag. I was like, no, they're not ready. Like, give them time. Like they probably got other stuff going on. I'm not gonna reach out. And then boom, they popped up with a whole company doing exactly what we were gonna pitch. And we didn't get that work. I mean, or we didn't even get the opportunity to share what we would do because I fumbled the bag. I didn't listen to you. I didn't, you know, I didn't take that action in action. What about you? You ever fumbled a bag?
Yeah, all the time. Whether it's in miscommunication or just not saying the right thing at the right time,
Hmm.
or not setting expectations in like my personal life. Um, Same in business. It could be, not communicating effectively something that you need done when you need it done to the team.
Right.
It happens every day. But on the flip side of fumbling the bag, I think it's something that we should all go through or experience because it makes us better.
It
No one
does.
likes the feeling of, I can't swear, but messing up on
Right.
a big level.
Well, I
Yeah,
say shit all the time on here, but yeah.
that's not the word I wanted to say,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, I got you.
yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
you.
I think it teaches us a really good lesson, and so I think it reduces the amount of time we fumble the bag once we do it a few times.
Yeah, and you've been pretty good about that. Uh, Definitely in our relationship, I always give you that credit that if I bring something up once, I don't that it doesn't happen again. Like you self correct very well. But has there been a time? Well, not has there been a time. I know there's been a time. You told me about a time. Like tell the people about a time when you were younger in your personal life that you fumbled a big bag, and 15 years later, like you still can't get that bag.
Yeah, I mean, my sister promised to take us on a cruise,
Who's us?
and me and my younger siblings. Yeah,
Neville and Sonia.
correct. And I knew better. I was the oldest, and we were making a lot of noise. She told us to shut up and go to bed because
Can
we
I
had
ask a
school in the
question?
morning.
Was this just that night, or was she like
It
disciplining?
was
Like
just that night. That
it was
that's
just that night.
why.
It wasn't okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was just that night, and it was just so abrupt. It just happened, and I'm still in shock to this day. And
What happened?
she just told us to stop making noise, or else and
Behave yourself.
misbehaving. Yeah, behave ourselves. As she not taking us on this cruise, and I was quiet, but you know,
Were you quiet though, Gino?
my sister is funny. She's a little clown. She's like me.
Sonia is
So
funny.
she made a joke, and I had to laugh. I just had to laugh, and yep, my sister came out of her room and just bust open the door. Was like, yeah, y'all not going anywhere. Y'all don't listen. Can't take me nowhere. And I started to beg. I was like, no, 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 it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I'm sorry.
You're
And
like, take me, not them.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I wasn't like that. But yeah, I missed out on that opportunity, that experience, and up to this day, I still haven't been on a cruise, and I feel like that was my one chance. I mean, I'll do it eventually,
Yeah, we'll get to go on a cruise at some point. I've been on a few cruises, but
that taught me a few things. So, like in a leadership position, like if you don't speak up, and if ambiguity is allowed to fester, that is
mhm,
exactly what happens.
yeah. So y'all were going on a cruise. You didn't behave yourself, and I know you're saying it's just that night, but it's probably likely she was fed up with y'all. Y'all were being
No, it was that night. We were bad that night, really rowdy. Yeah,
rode it that night,
yeah, it was
and the
bad.
whole trip was just canceled.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a big bag you fumble. 15 years later, you can't get that bag back.
nope. And I
That's
still
tough.
talk about it. Yep.
You do. You still talk about it. But yeah, fumbling the bag is it's it if you are reflective, if you look back and you're trying to look at yourself and you say, "Hey, how could I have done this different?" As you stated earlier, I think it could be very useful for you. If you're not, if you're just like, oh, you know, this was Sonia's fault. This was Neville's fault, and not own your role in that, then you keep fumbling bags.
Yep.
You keep fumbling bags. So we've had this conversation before, and I think that we came to it. This next conversation, we came to it a few years into business in our relationship, and it's that you're never going to get one big break, right?
Right.
Definitely growing up, I know I deeply believed that there's going to be just this one big opportunity. And when I get that opportunity, my life is just going to change overnight. And I deeply believe that for a lot of years, even into my mid 20s, I believe that. And we figured out, and we talk about very often, the fact that there's never going to be one big break. Success is just a bunch of small wins.
You brought that to my attention, and I thought that it was the smartest thing I had ever heard at that time, because I was waiting for the exact same thing, the one big break, and then you shat on my parade by saying, "Hey,
Shit, you're
there's
right.
no such thing as the one big break.
Right.
It is consistently doing something well, small wins over a period of time.
That stack on
That's
each other.
right. That stack on each other that leads up to that one big break."
Yeah, and it doesn't, I wouldn't even say leads up to the one big break, but it's all of these small wins stacked on each other that when someone steps back and looks at them, it looks like, oh, this person had this one big like this one, the thing at the top is what everyone sees,
It's
but they don't,
preparation, correct.
right, but they don't see all of the different opportunities that you acted on, all the different
All
bags
the
you didn't
decisions
fumble,
that all the good decisions you
all
made
the good
over a
decisions
period
you
of
made
time
to
that
get you to
compounded
that
on
top
each other.
decision that
Correct.
they can see, you know. And we talk about, and you said this, I remember we were at the Chipotle on Richmond in Houston, and I put it in notes because
Jeez.
you said it. You said small things become the big things.
Yeah, I'm so smart.
you well you always out here digging up yourself, but you said, like, all the small things, how you do the small things is what ends up being how you do the big things, and
Correct.
that defines your life. What are some of the small things that you have sought to practice to ensure that you don't fumble the bag when you do get opportunity?
Right. So your boy Kobe, he always speaks about aggressive patience,
Mhm,
and it's doing the exact same thing over and over every day
mhm,
until that opportunity lands in your lap. Right. So I'd say aggressive patience is my one big thing. Just being prepared at any given time. I'd
right,
also say being very intentional. So a part of aggressive patience is being intentional with
mhm,
your goals and your actions. For me, I'm an engineer. I gotta stay up to date with the code. I gotta be coding. I gotta
right,
be involved in the day-to-day stuff. I gotta make sure that um, I'm completely immersed in
yeah,
what I do. It's your values as a person, the
mhm,
good values, being kind, being honest, um, and then good habits. I mean, eating healthy, taking care of your body, your mind, relationships, nurturing relationships.
mhm.
It all, even though they're like small things in the grand scheme of whatever the big break is, they all matter.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you listed those out, because when we talk about don't fumble the bag, how to win early and often, when we're younger, we are very much obsessed with that big break. We want that big thing. If you're just coming out of school, a lot of people, they want that big job. They want
Yep.
that big check. When you're just starting a business, I know you want that big client. You want that big contract. And you kind of get obsessed with the grand end result of whatever the big dream it is you have. And in doing so, sometimes it's easy to overlook all of those smaller things that you mentioned, like the aggressive patience, the being
Mm.
intentional and working towards a goal, like the having values and integrity as a person, and the developing the good habits, all of those little things are what stack on each other. All of those are bags that you have to not fumble, you have to take across the finish line to actually get to that big opportunity, to actually be in a room where someone can look at you and say, oh, let me see, let me look at your life, let me look at your decisions, let me look at how you approach your existence. Oh yeah,
Yep.
you're somebody that I want
And
to work
and
with.
it looks different based on what you determine that big break, like what you want it to be.
The big thing
I
to be.
mean, I it's good to have money, but I don't necessarily categorize a big break as being wealthy. I mean, that's great. I mean, if you got
Yeah.
it, but let's take basketball for example. I've been working on my shot, working on my dribbling skills. Like
Mhm.
my big break, like I think about that. I love the process. I
You
fall in
do.
love in the processes for anything that I do, if it's design, if it's development. But basketball, like the minute I can wash somebody out just in a
At
game,
will. On
missing
demand.
no shot, just completely humiliating you. Like that is I
Humiliation.
yeah, yeah. That's something I dream about all the time. I want to be able to play a
Humiliating me
pickup game.
or anybody else?
No,
I guess
just
some
if
people would be.
anybody else, like just play a game of pickup basketball and don't miss one shot. And I'm not talking about a layup. I mean, but not just
You
three
just
anybody.
drain it from three.
I
Green
dream
light.
about that every day. I dream about me dunking. Like that, I love that. That is the big break
Yeah.
preparation. And so it looks different for people. You obviously have something driving you, and your
Mhm.
big break is different, right?
Yeah. And I'm glad you stated it that way, because when we're younger, and I'm speaking for myself, i I wanted just the one big opportunity. And like when I was in music, like I was like, yo, I'm gonna meet one person and everything is gonna transform overnight. No, it's not. Even in thoughtful, through our work in this business, I can track. It's something that I like to do, like, and you know this, when I see like someone that's really big on YouTube or really big on Instagram, or who owns a very successful business. I used to do this from high school. I would go and read their biography, because I
Mhm.
want to know where it is they started. I go to their YouTube and I look at their first videos. I want to
Yep.
know what your first videos were. I want, because it what it speaks to is, a lot of the times we're looking at the end result. We look at the end result of people's success,
Yep.
and we get caught up in that, and we forget, in looking at our own actions and our own decisions, that hey, to get to that, they had to take a lot of bags and move them across the finish line. They could not fumble. If they had fumbled that bag, it probably wouldn't have worked out for them in this way or that way. And we did that 1000% in our business. I remember one time someone asked, oh, how is it that y'all are able to work with the types of clients that you work with? We're working with the biggest brands in the world, like internationally established organizations, like big brands. And I remember someone asked me that, and in reflecting on it, it was just like doing a lot of small little things right. And every time we got an opportunity, is why we have these we have these conversations, not just here on the podcast, but in
Mhm.
our private. We talk about, hey, we can't drop this ball. We got to do this right. We have to, like when this opportunity comes in, how do we make it so great that when they look at it, they're like, oh, we want to work with them again.
Right. We obsess over excellence, and
Mhm.
just to be honest, guys, all that is going the extra mile every
It
time.
is. It's not hard. It's just,
It's not hard actually.
what's hard is having the discipline to do it again and again,
Yep.
especially when you don't want to do it.
Yep.
But going the extra mile is not hard. It's just kindness. And it's not just going the extra mile for clients or for your teammates, but it's going the extra mile for yourself, and knowing that there's not going to be one big thing that's going to transform your life. It's all of your little decisions, and so you have to go hard every single day.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Great. So you said going the extra mile every time, all the time, even when you don't feel like doing it,
Mhm.
right? Now, how do you know, like,
Mhm.
like when would be the best time to like quit or keep going?
Well, let me say this before we even go to when is the time to quit or keep going. How about this? The reality is that when you are when you're working towards your big opportunity, we started the episode with this. When you're working towards your big opportunity, there's never you can't do that alone. And that is something that I think I had to come to terms with in a solid way, right? You
Mhm.
can't do that alone. And so you really have to find a way to get around winners. So one of the things we talk about that don't fumble the bag, don't fumble people, right? And how do you get around winners? Because when you're around winners, they teach you how to win. Winners know how to win, and they teach you how to win. And I think a part of working that big break and making and stacking those wins to get to that big break is understanding that when you're around winners, every single situation is a test. Every single situation is a test. Every single situation is there to test you. It is there to test your integrity. It is there to test your work ethic. It's there to test your commitment. It's there to test if you are deserving of that bag that you are supposedly carrying. And I came to this realization, I think, just by chance in just observing. But successful people have a different standard for the people that are around them.
That's true.
They have a different standard for the people that are around them, and you know that a lot of our wins have been able to stack because of the people we've had in our lives.
Right. Right. That's true.
However, with them being in our lives and us doing what we got to do, a lot of those experiences were actually tests. They didn't just come out and say, "Oh, here's an opportunity, drop it in your lap." Like no one is dropping opportunities in your lap. They show up as tests. And you have to decide if you're gonna
Yeah,
take
and
it.
you actually brought that to my attention because up until I know exactly what you're talking about, but
Mhm.
yeah, up until that point, I didn't realize that until you said like you laid out like all of the events, and it was like, oh, really? Wow, that really happened. And I'm talking years, guys. Like this isn't
Yeah.
just a one-time conversation, and hey, you do this, but
It
um,
it's people winners. This is a really important point. when when it comes to how to win early and often and not fumbling the bag, not fumbling people is really important, and getting yourself in an environment where you're around winners is really important, and understanding that when you're around winners, they are not going to just hand things to you, because people who are winning, they are by their very nature doing all the things you talk about: aggressive patience, they're being
correct.
intentional, they're working towards their goals, they have the good habits, and so they are very discerning about who they allow in their space, because they know, hey, like energy is contagious. So if I let a loser in here, no disrespect, but if I let somebody that's not like set out to win in here, then what's gonna happen? Like it's gonna throw me off my thing. So they want to be around winners, and they test you. And the situation you're talking about, Gino, is where people want to know if you're about it. You talk about
Yep.
it, people want to know if you're about it, and you have to be prepared um, to 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 show up.
Yep. All the time, and you. So, guys, Tahira, well, we're both very big on relationships, but Tahira has been preaching relationships from the time I've met her. That
Mhm.
very first time. Relationships matter. Relationships matter. Just like a drill sergeant with that. And she's right because just like how the small wins stack, I mean, in a previous conversation, we spoke about that imaginary count. It's the exact same thing with relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, people who are winning and they're doing the exact same thing that we're talking about, the aggressive patience, the good habits. They're doing it because they're already winning, and most of the time in our case, she spoke about the people, some of the people that we have in our life. They're winning and they continue to win.
Yeah.
And so they're not just going to take a chance on you for what? To
Just
mess.
because you talk about it. Like
Yeah.
nobody's doing
No.
that. You get to a certain
You
level,
gotta take action. They want to see
right?
you taking action over a period of time.
And guess what? And to be honest, when we were starting out, we did not have the agency to do that. Like we were just starting, we weren't nobody. But at this stage in the game, anybody that comes around us, like for sure, like everybody's tested. I don't care who you are, how old you are, like everybody, you may not know it, but you are being observed because like when you're winning, you have to really be very careful about who you allow into your space. That's not to say you don't talk to people, but who you allow to be in your space in a very consistent way, like that matters because that will make you or break you.
And
Why are
you
you
know what?
smiling?
That's so sad. I'll tell you why I'm smiling. So today, after I got back from the barber, well, on my way back from the barber, I stopped to get some shawarma,
Hmm.
and I was running by, and I saw this young lady's food, and I said, "Oh, that looks good." So I stopped. I asked her what it was, and I went inside. I ordered it, and I was chatting with her. That's why I was smiling because I know you'd be like, "Yeah."
Hmm. Go ahead.
So,
You're chatting up a woman at the shawarma. Go ahead.
so
Carry
I
on.
was talking to her. Cool. We get in the conversation.
First time I'm hearing this on the podcast. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I know, but
Do your
it's
thing, King.
relevant. Trust me, it's relevant. So we're having this conversation, and she's switching careers. She wants to get into tech, and this isn't the first time I've had this conversation. Now, if you know anything about me, like I'm just big on the whole tech thing. I can
Mhm,
ramble on, go on, and go on for hours, just
mhm.
talking about this stuff. And I'm talking, and I noticed that she's not serious about herself. So I didn't.
Gino,
No, just based on the level of conversation. So but based on what she told me as well, you know,
like what?
it-
Like
she
without
did her research. Like she told me she did her research. She's looking at some of these boot camps, and you know me, I'm a call bullshit. And I'm like what? Which boot camp? Then she started to stumble, and she started to like twist in her seat and stuff. And I was like, okay, just that's red flag one. Like if I you should be
no
able,
specificity.
like none at all. And so I mentioned a few good options for her, like just
Mhm,
based on my experience and my own path. And then I wished her well. I got up. I told her that my wife is at home waiting for this food.
mhm.
And I
Did you
just,
really say that?
yeah, I
Go
did.
ahead.
I always do that. But it's the exact same thing. Serious people know when you're bullshitting. So like that
So
one,
you wrote her off from there.
yeah, like I just was like, okay, that was cool. It wasn't a waste of my time, but
Mhm.
um I left her with some things to think about. But yeah,
But you know what's interesting? So I know that you are very passionate about helping people, right? You're very passionate about supporting people. And so that's the point. Like you never know who you're talking to and you
mm,
never know how that relationship could transform your life. And so treating every relationship with value and
right.
understanding and having the discernment to know when you are around a serious person, when you're
Yep.
around somebody that does what they say, that is a winner. Like uh, this is such an underrated skill because I am stressing on it before we even move on because I think that for a lot of people when they're younger, for sure, we want to win. We want to get to the top, but we don't surround ourselves with winners, and so
We go
we
about it the
actually
wrong
make
way.
we go about it the wrong way, and so we make our lives so much harder because we surround ourselves with people who are not winners. And the reality is if you just get in the right environment, your life will take off. And here's what happens: when you get around winners and you don't just fumble the bag, but you multiply the bag and you make life better for that winner, let me tell you what they do. And I'm telling you from experience, our whole life is based on this. They go and they tell the other winners, they're like, hey, we got a new winner in the camp. you gotta see what they're about. And then that other winner's like, hey, I want to work with you. And you do good, they're gonna connect you with another winner. And all of a sudden, you just working with a gang of winners, and your life is just elevated. And now you're a winner. And so as younger people, I think that if you want to get ahead in any way, like if you stop the episode right now, you say, I don't want to listen no more, take this away. Get around winners. Don't fumble the bag when you're around winners. 10x your effort, multiply the bag for winners, and see how they put you on.
Right, but I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Let
Like,
me go. I know
how
you
do
do.
you know you're in the presence of a winner? Like, how do you know you're not in the right environment? I mean, like, because
Right.
we are young, you're naive, you're not mature enough to know any better. It's not a crutch, but
Let me say that's a good question. How do you know when you're around winners? I will say you
and
could
not people that are faking it. I'm saying
faking it. That's
because
true. That's true.
that's very possible.
That's I think that's a great point, because there are a lot of people who pretend like they're winning and they're not, right? They pretend there's
Right.
something that they're not. I think that when you're around a winner, you got to sit back for a minute and you got to listen. You can't just listen to one conversation. You got to listen to a lot of conversations. And so
Mhm.
it, as difficult as it is, as much of a chatterbox as I am, I like to listen. I listen often when I'm around people,
Mhm.
because I want to, like, if you listen to people long enough, like if you listen to somebody in one
They
conversation
say the
and
same
that's
thing over and over, different ways.
right,
Yep.
right. But if you listen, look at it this way: if you listen to somebody in one conversation, then that's all you take away.
Mhm.
But if you listen to this person in multiple conversations over a 9-month period, you will start to find consistencies and inconsistencies, and it will start to frame your perspective on who it is this person is or is not. And
Correct.
so I think that having the patience to listen and to not always feel like your voice has to be the one that is heard in the room, that's really important, is just to sit back and listen and observe. And over time, people will show you exactly who it is they are. If
Yep.
their words are not consistent, then they're not honest. If their words and their actions do not align, they're not honest. So it's a lot of of observation, and not getting to like hype up on a situation, and working to bring value, and also observing how they treat other people. How people deal with other people really matters. And so really stepping back and taking yourself out of the situation, and not going to the situation and saying, oh, I want to be around winners so they can make me win, give me a big bag. No, it's like, I want to learn from people. And a part of learning is sitting and listening. So yeah, understand when you're around winners, and know that they will test you, and you're probably going to have to prove yourself. And I'm perfectly happy proving myself, especially when I know that I can learn from somebody.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. So and also the note here, understanding that every new level will call for a new version of you. So the winners you're around when you're on one level look different to the winners you're around when you're on another level. So you have to actually keep, like, it's a never ending process. You
But the
asked the
key thing
question.
here, guys,
Mhm.
you notice that she's stressing the relationship part, the human aspect of things, right? Because that all matters. And even though it seems small, she spoke about how they treat people, what they're saying. It all matters.
It matters. Like, I don't, again, if you stop the episode right now, if you just learn how to manage people, when I say manage people, I'm not talking about manipulate people. I mean, if you learn how to treat people with kindness and how to serve, and you always talk about the imaginary count, how to ensure that you are not using people and overplaying your value, sky's the limit.
Yep.
Sky's the limit. If you're the one that shows up in every situation with winners, bringing value to the table, exceeding expectations, they're going to put you on. So you asked a question about quitting. And before we go into that question, I want to kind of share a little story. Short, sweet. We were in Vegas a week ago.
Hmm.
Well, we just got back
Well, we just
Wednesday.
got back. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a lot of interesting people there. I met a guy. He was an older gentleman and he was very successful. He had multiple. exits, successful multi-million dollar exits from businesses. And of course, when I'm around, I'm asking questions. So once I identify who the person is and what's not and what they're saying, I'm gonna ask more questions.
Mhm.
So he told me something though. He told me something straight up. He said, when you feel like quitting is when you're close to actually winning, right?
Mm.
And and I love that he said that. I needed to hear it then. But it also reminded me that not fumbling the bag and learning how to win early and often is also about learning when to lean in, when to double down, and when to quit well. Learning what situations you need to go all out for and what situations you need to walk away from. Have you like what are your perspectives around quitting, if I may ask?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, like quitting every day is, I mean, it crosses my mind. It's not easy doing your own thing,
Hmm.
but never once did I say I acted on it or anything like that. Like it would cross your mind, and then you just know that hey, you gave up so much of your time and your life to this thing. You just gotta stick with it. But and again, if we knew that success, something was around the corner, we wouldn't quit, right? That's what
Right.
makes
We talk about that.
yeah, because then everyone would do it, right? If they knew.
We we have that conversation when we talk about people who quit and people who give up on a dream. We talk about the fact that everybody looks at life like everybody talks about things like in retrospect.
Hmm.
Oh, if the person didn't sell those shares of Apple, of course he would not have sold them if he knew that Apple would be what it is today. If
Yep.
some pixie came to him and was like, Apple is gonna be a multi-billion dollar company. It's gonna be
Trillion.
number. He would have been like, look, I don't care what's going on. I'm gonna find a way to write it out.
Correct.
But quitting does have some negative connotations around it, stigmas. I have personally felt that because I felt like if you quit, it makes you a loser. If you quit, you're a failure. I have felt that before. And we all hear Kobe's my guy.
Well,
We hear about the obsessed athlete who never gave up on their dreams, the person that's just going hard. So I felt personally for a long time that quitting meant that I was a loser if I quit.
yeah, me too. Until I found out that it was okay to quit for the right reason.
That's right.
Because no matter what it was, even if it was bad, not anything too detrimental to obviously my life or my well-being, but
Mhm,
it just felt wrong. But if you were quitting for the right reason, and then there was a plan that was then put into place to get back
mhm,
on a horse and try again,
mhm.
then
Then that's different.
that's what we're saying. That's different, and I would quit all the time if
So
it
so
means that I get to do it again.
mhm. So we have a few things here like when is quitting bad, when is quitting good. Let's talk about like just quickly when is quitting terrible. So quitting is terrible when the first thing on the list here says when you are in your feelings, when your emotions are very heightened. And I've told this story before. I'm not sure if I told it on the podcast, but how we had a project that was worth over six figures. And I was upset. I was upset about something with the client. And I was very emotional in the moment about how something was handled. And quitting that project at that time felt like the right decision.
Hmm.
My emotions were high. I was peaking. You know how I get. I
Yes, I
I
do.
I was tripping. So it felt like the right decision. It felt justified because I was upset and I was emotional and I couldn't see past my anger. And I was very like, yo, F all this. But long term, I'm actually glad that I didn't quit. I think that quitting when you're in your feelings is the worst thing you can do.
And the
Be-
easiest thing to do, and
It's the
that's
easiest thing to
that's
do to
that's
run.
why most people do it because
Yeah,
it's easy and it
because
doesn't
it's
take thought or any extra energy or effort. You just quit.
you just quit, and then you're just like, oh, I'll just reset. But
Mhm.
I think about that moment all the time because I know, look, your feelings almost cost you a six figure project. fix that shit. Fix it.
Yep.
Fix your inability in a moment to control your feelings. Manage that and level out, because you do this wrong, you're going to fumble a bigger bag. You're going to fumble a
And
seven figure, eight figure
just like
bag.
in your personal life, don't be making decisions when you're upset or you're angry. Whenever we get
Right.
into fights, we gotta take some time apart and cool down, come
Right.
back to the table. It's the exact same thing. You get somebody on the phone, somebody that you trust that can give you good advice,
Mhm.
and you think about it. Never ever make any kind of serious decision when you're upset.
Whether you, and let me say this, not just when you're upset, but even when you're too happy, when your emotions are heightened. Because
Oh,
I
yep.
have made
Great
decisions,
point.
I have
Yep.
stated things when I was on a high, that once I leveled out, once I came back down to planet Earth, you commit to something, or you take some action when everything is great, and then or when you feel excellent, and then you come back down to planet Earth and you're just like, wait, what? Like, nah, like, screw that. Like, that's another way of fumbling the bag. Like,
Mhm.
taking action and making decisions when your emotions are heightened.
Right. And then another important one to mention is quitting because of someone else's opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. That no, that's a big one, because mine was kind of mixed into that. With that
Yeah.
big project, I like, this is why it's so important. We talk about this all the time.
I know exactly
Who
what you're going to say.
who you go to
Mhm.
when you are, when you got a bag, and you are not, and you are, whether it's a person, whether it's an opportunity, whether it's your career, whatever it is, when you got a bag and you're having issues with the bag, and you got to make some choices. Who you go to, who you go to before you take action, that matters.
Yep.
Because for me, with that six-figure deal, I spoke to like three people that I can, when I say confide in, that I communicate with about stuff like that. And I do that because I want to get different perspectives, and I
As you
know I can go to one person and they're gonna hype me up. And if I say, man, f this is that and the other, they're gonna be like, yeah, f this. And if I go to this other person and I say that, they're gonna be like, wait, have you thought this through?
Yep.
And so when you are making a decision to either double down on an opportunity or step away from it, it's really important to ensure that you're talking to people who are balanced and who have the ability, because everyone doesn't have that ability. I'll be honest with you. I am not the friend that has that ability. If you come to me and you say you lit about this, I'm like, yo, F them, this is that and the other. I'm
I'm
going
the
off
exact
with you.
same
I'm gonna
way.
hype you.
Yep.
I'm gonna hype you, for the most part. But find the people that their default is to ask questions. It's to make you reflect.
And that good. Thank you for that, to hear a great point. Now, negative comments also
Mhm,
play a role in whether or not you continue down that path or you quit.
mhm,
And this goes back to like one of the earlier podcast episodes that we had where we
mhm,
spoke about knowing exactly what it is you want. And just because someone says something that you don't want to hear,
mhm.
it doesn't mean that you should quit. Because by default, I don't think I should say that, but
Say what you got to say.
like
Is it too bad?
most people ain't trying to be on that speed, you know.
Right. That's
You
facts.
want to, I
This is
mean,
dreaming
it's
in
okay.
color. Word up.
We all want different things,
Right.
but you have to be discerning enough to know that, all right, where I go matters. The things I say to who I say them to, like it all matters.
Go where you're celebrated.
So go where you're celebrated. Correct.
Yeah. And but that's a good point, Knowing, because I was talking about people that can gas you or level you out. But the truth is, you also got to know if people have the capacity to advise you on certain issues. Because for some people, that's not in their wheelhouse. They are not capable of advising you on this, that, or the other because their perspective is not that expanded. And if their perspective is not that expanded, then any advice you're getting is from a very small, limited point of view.
Correct.
And so knowing who you're talking to and what their goals are and what their values are, and like, do they know what it looks like to have a bag like this? Do they know how to manage a bag like this? And that's
That
how
is
we
true.
have to look at things.
Yeah.
Because when we're faced with some of the decisions we're faced with now, we're not going and talking like, I'm not talking to anybody that's not doing what I'm doing, or on levels higher than me, because it's no disrespect, but there's not much your perspective can't help me in the manner I needed to help me in. That's just being smart.
Yeah, and we all know what it is we want, what we're looking for, and if the person we're speaking to can help us with that.
Yeah.
Because like most times, it's just you just keep it surface level until they say things that trigger something in you, or it's something that you felt before, that you've
Mhm.
heard before, and you say, "Hey, this person speaks my language. Dive
they,
in."
they speak your language, exactly that. And having the courage, I'll call it courage,
Mhm.
to say, you know what, it's all respect, it's all cool, but we're on different wavelengths, and so I can respect you, I can love you, but I'm not gonna be talking to you about this bag. I'm trying to ensure I don't fumble. I'm not gonna be taking advice from you on this. You're not the most appropriate person to advise me on this.
But that is still important. It is extremely important because you know what to look for, and based on whatever you're saying, you know that you need to go in the opposite direction. That this
Right,
is
but
this isn't what it's supposed to be. This isn't what I should be looking for.
right, and but you know what a lot of it comes down to is, here's the truth. Some people, think about it. Some people will call you for advice. Do they want advice, or do they want to be told what they want to hear?
It's always the latter, in my opinion. Oh well, my experience.
In your experience. Well, so that's the reality. Some people call you for advice. They don't want advice. They just want to vent. And so, as an individual, that's fine if other people are calling you on that. But as an individual, you have to know, am I asking this question because I genuinely want help and assistance? Or am I asking this question because I want somebody to tell me that I'm right and I want my feelings to be validated? Because if it is that your goal is to make decisions based on just feeling good in the moment about it, then you're gonna fumble a lot of bags and
Right.
you're gonna be losing for a long time.
And I feel like if you if you're calling me for advice, if you love the person, if you care about the person,
Mhm.
it will never you will never lead them down that path. Like you're not just gonna tell them what, like I've gotten a bad rap for that. I just speak my mind. I'm gonna tell you how it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes across as being judgmental, but that's what good friends do. Like they're gonna just tell you the shit straight up.
Right. Good advice will help you secure more bags.
Correct.
And I think that it comes down to, back to the point, how to win early and often. You have to train your mind. One of the things I had to do
Mhm.
was kill that ego and train my mind to say, and I have to destroy the ego every day, because I got a big ego, right? But
Mhm.
train your mind to say, like, listen, learning and hearing something hard right now in this moment is going to be more valuable to me in the future than hearing what it is I want to hear. And having the courage to have difficult conversations, and to swallow, and just to keep
Yep.
keep it pushing.
And
That's
for 100% of us, all of us, until that really hurts, until when someone tells us something and we don't take it to heart, or we let our ego deal with it, it gotta really hurt. You gotta hit a rock bottom for you
Yeah.
to make a decision. Especially for me, uh, it wasn't easy, and like you gotta hear some tough things, and you gotta put that ego aside in order to secure.
In order, I told you that. Last thing I'll say on this, I told you that when I was in college. I mean, I've had my ego shaken many times since then, but one of the big ones, one of the first times for me, honestly, was when I was in college, and I was, man, I was fumbling everything. I was down bad, and I remember my brother picking me up.
Oh
Like, I
God.
was failing. I was failing in school. My business had failed. I was it was bad. And I remember him picking me up and bringing me home. And he parked in the spot. He had a Ford F-150 pickup truck at the time. And he parked in the spot, the temporary parking. The the gear thing. And
Yep.
he turned
Forward
to
and
me. He was like, when are you gonna get your effing shit together? Like, and let me tell you, he went in, and I just sat there, and the tears just rolled down my eyes, and it was the hardest conversation to that point that he had ever had with me, or that anyone had had with me, because he's like a dad to me, and hearing that in that moment, what he was basically saying is like, you are not just fumbling this one bag, you're fumbling your life. And
Yep.
you need to get
There you go.
your shit together, or it's gonna be all, in pieces. And he said that, and it hurt. It stung, man. I cried. I was crying snot. I couldn't even I was speechless crying. And but I felt it, and I knew he was right. It hurt me. And what I found is that the things that hurt the most are usually the ones that are the most true. You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody come and make up a
All the
lie on
time.
me, like, I don't give a shit,
Yep.
you know, is when they hit you with that truth that you know is the truth, but you don't want to hold on to it. So yeah, the right people will help you to secure the bag. When is quitting right? We talk about that. When is quitting right? You said it earlier. You talked about direction.
Ooh. Yeah, when it doesn't, whatever it is you're doing doesn't align with your goals, your directions, and it doesn't require like any life changing, like no energy, nothing. I mean, you can quit. We've let go of clients because they didn't align, like they weren't aligned. We weren't aligned.
Yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
That's easy. And I think that when people are really emotional, they think that quitting is to quote unquote quit and be done with something. Quitting well is about being intentional.
Yeah.
And it's about that clarity you spoke about earlier, and
Mm.
about knowing that I'm not moving away from this thing to be done with it because I'm running from it. I'm moving away from this thing because I have a bigger vision. And
Right.
do you know LeBron James used to play like in and football in high school? So he played football and he played basketball, maybe another sport too. He had
Mhm.
to quit football to be great at basketball. He had to quit football. He couldn't do both. And so for me, it's like, when quitting allows you to focus, to refocus, and to double down in direction, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of that
We've
lately.
been doing a lot of that lately.
Yeah.
And that's not easy, because the other thing, let's say this, you know this.
I
You
do.
ever tried to just carry like a bunch of things in your hand, and then everything just fall out your hand, know something broke?
Yes.
I feel like the value of quitting is to not be that person, because a lot of times we got like a bunch of bags in our hand, and we trying to juggle all of those bags, and we just stacking more and more bags on top of them, and because we're not focused in our direction, we fumble all the bags.
Well, I'm not clumsy like you. I don't drop bags.
Okay, here we go. but
I
but but
just
but
I just have to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But yeah,
yeah.
I get it. That's a great point. And it's all about focus, really. I mean, we spoke about this in the past.
Mm,
If you're trying to take on as many bags as possible, something's not gonna get done.
That's right.
Like what is the opportunity cost? Like what are you giving up to handle this bag? And you never know. By trying to deal with everything at the same time, you fumble all.
You
So
fumble all.
you have to be mindful
You
of that.
fumble all the bags because you don't have the capacity to give all of your attention to everything at once. That's just not how it goes. So that is, I think that we started to figure that out now.
Yeah. And what that
But
looks
Kiss
like,
was the
guys.
perfect example. We Jesus.
Oh,
That's
what
we
example you
fumbled a
gonna
boat.
use? Yeah. Yeah. We did. We did. But and what that looks like in business, because I mean, we want to throw some business in here as well,
Mhm.
is taking a look at your services, figuring out
Mhm.
what isn't working,
Yeah.
um, and just adjust. We've done that what every year. We've been doing
Yeah.
that.
Somebody once I read this guy, this entrepreneur once said, a CEO or something. He said, "You should be killing your business every year."
Yes,
I said, "What?
it's good.
Destroy your business." I said,
Mhm,
"Okay, scene. What does this mean?" But I took it to heart. Kill your
mhm.
business, and even for me, even kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like not suicide. You know, we definitely don't condone that. And if you need help, certainly get the help you need. But
Yes.
but rework yourself, reimagine yourself every year, redefine yourself, and do not be afraid to do that because when you are just trying to do everything and you're not, you need to cut out, like big companies do that all the time. They go through and they cut the least productive performers.
That
They
is true.
make them quit. They are fired. They
Yep.
fire them. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I think that it really has to be the same for us as individuals with our goals and what it is we're working towards. Like, know what it is you want and refine your focus every year. We had a conversation
Oh boy.
a few weeks a week or so ago,
Which one?
and it was around burning bridges
Woo.
because when people say don't fumble the bag, one of the things that you know how to win early and often.
Again,
I
a relationship, guys. It ties back. It all ties
I
back to a
I
relationship.
re- I read this quote. Let me say this. I read this quote where this guy says how you exit a company or a relationship or a business, we'll just put all that in there. How you exit a company is just as important as how you enter it. I'm reading. Don't underestimate the impact it can potentially have on your career in the future. So I think it's the
And
guy, oh my God, I
in their
forgot
life.
the
Yep.
crowdfunding platform. But he posted that on LinkedIn, and of course, everyone is clicking up like on it. But how you exit a company is just as or a relationship or a business or a partnership is just as important as how you enter it. Don't underestimate the impact it can potentially have on your career in the future. And I read that and I was like, yes. And I'm not just talking about an employee quitting, but if you got a client, how does that relationship wrap up? You know what I'm saying? You got a partner, how does that end?
Well, if we speak in business, the best way to do it is always respectfully via
Mhm,
email, right? You just
mhm,
go your separate ways. You have to keep that respect. But on the topic of burning bridges, right?
mhm.
How do you know if it's right or when it's right to burn a bridge?
Well, that's a good question because on one hand, we have the quote from the guy talking about, hey, how you exit a company matters. And then on the other hand, we had a real talk conversation with a colleague the other day, a partner, and I thought it was great advice. And he said, look,
And
some
it was the first
bridges,
time I had ever heard that.
you'd ever heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some bridges have to burn. Some bridges have to be razed to the ground, burnt into oblivion. And I agree with that. I think that how you exit a relationship, how you end a relationship matters. And I also think that in most cases, you do it well. But in the instances where people cross lines,
Or don't, well, he said that you don't do it at all. Most times you shouldn't burn a bridge.
most times you don't. Most times you don't. But in the instances where people's values and people's behavior is so in
Yep.
contradiction to your own, you and guess what? You can burn a bridge without being disrespectful.
Correct.
You can burn a bridge, and I'm working on that. I'm working on that. But burning a bridge is just saying you can't cross this bridge again.
Yep.
It's done. You're done. You'll never be able to cross this bridge again. The door is never open. And I think that I don't most relationships are not like that because you never know. Like life is short, but life is also very long. And so you don't ever want to destroy a relationship to the point that you can't reach out, you can't ask a question. You if someone if you're working with a new partner or a new somebody and they ask about you, you don't want it to be the case where they say that mother this and so like,
Oh gosh.
right? You don't want that. But
Oh,
there are instances where I agree. Burn the bridge to the ground and you burn it as an example for others.
yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I matured a lot. Like I was quick to cut a mofo off, but when you realize that we're all humans and we make mistakes, my mother taught me the best lesson of all, like the best lesson. I told you
Mhm,
that the other day. I'm not gonna say that, but she said something to me when I was younger,
mhm,
and it only took me like what 10, 15 years later to realize, like, to put myself in her shoes, to realize what she was actually saying.
mhm,
But yeah, like, and most people they burn bridges because one, I know you insult their ego. You're not
mhm,
aligned with their values.
mhm,
Say some hurtful shit.
mhm,
It's always something emotional and it's like psychological,
mhm.
always. And I think it's and we don't have it. We don't have the answer to everything, but like you said, it's how you like how you what you say and what you do in those situations that really matter. Because you could, I think, if you like semi burn a bridge, you can still come back from that. Like it's not
Yeah,
burned all the way down. But I would say that it always starts with like you got to know how to play the game. You catch more flies with honey than with shit, right?
it's
And
facts.
if you like, I always tell you, like it's so easy now because I get it. Like before, I didn't get it. It's so easy for me now to just have a conversation with somebody where I messed up because I'm accountable. Like I can say, "Hey, I was wrong," and I love those conversations. Like
Mhm,
when things are going good, it's cool. But like
mhm.
that's when you really test it. Like when you did some shit, you messed up, and now you're accountable. Right? Like it's so easy. Just
Just
apologize,
to apologize.
falling on your knees. Like
But that's
I-
hard for a lot of people, if I could be
yeah,
honest.
for most people. But like there's so much power in that.
Excuse me. Yeah. And what I'll say is this: in terms of burning bridges, when you're very early in your career, there's no bridge you should be burning.
Right.
When you're under 30 years old, don't burn no bridges because you haven't even lived 50% of your life. You haven't even lived 25% of your life or 30% of your life, right? So, well, you haven't lived 30% of your life. Like, don't when you're younger, whatever age you are at, avoid burning bridges at all costs. But
Yeah,
when you're
I
younger,
agree. All of those relationships
especially
matter. Yep.
especially because how you read a situation, how I read situations when I was younger. You just said it took you 10, 15 years to actually understand what
Mm,
your mother was saying in that moment when
yep.
maybe you were angry or hurt by it. But but when you're young, and what that speaks to is exactly what we're saying. When you're younger, how you process the information is a lot
Mhm.
different. So to
Yep.
go and burn a bridge because you've processed something completely out of your emotions or whatever it is you have going on from a very primitive brain, that's just not smart. So you don't burn bridges then. But there are people who are more mature who, there are instances where
Unless
people,
it's quite obvious to hear, like,
mm,
this some situations are just hands down, plain out, just obvious. And
yeah.
once people show you who they are, then you just, do what you got to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. But again, I still feel like when you're younger, how I looked at the world and how I looked at my life and how I evaluated business, like there are things that I said in business relationships when I was younger that to this day I cringe when I think about it,
Yep. Yep.
because I know how childish I was
Yep.
and how immature I was and how foolish I was. And I kind of wish I had some of those back. And talking with clients and stuff like that. But when you're younger, there's no bridges to burn. No bridges to burn, because you never know. You never know when you're going to need to cross that bridge again. When you get older, you start to, and hey, I'm not tripping. I'm not thinking about this out of emotion.
Right.
I've seen this situation a lot of times, and
Mhm.
this one time where I'm just gonna close it out. And I think that winning early and often, it really comes down to learning how to manage conflict resolution,
Ooh-wee.
and and teaching your and not teaching yourself, but learning over time, training
What
yourself.
was that book you read that I still have to finish?
Oh my god.
Conversations You Have with Yourself. That is it that one?
Not conversations you have with yourself. Man. Oh my god,
We put it
conversation.
in the description, but
I'll
it's
put
a
it in the
really great
description,
book
but it was,
on managing conflict. Yeah, that's a
let me
great
tell
book.
you, I read that book and immediately I was like, God, I would take so many conversations back. It's
Mhm.
so many conversations I would just do completely different. And I've used that book in multiple conversations
That's how I feel.
after I read it.
Yep.
Literally, in personal, with our team. I will sit, I got the book open
Me?
and I'm taking, no, not with you. I say in personal with our team.
I
Actually,
know.
yeah, I did use it with you. I did. I used it with you. I did.
She always trying to use tactics on me, guys,
I am a you.
and I know when she's doing
Hey,
it.
if this thing don't work, I gotta be trying to evolve. I have to improve my approach. I can't just be
Yeah.
like, "Boy, let me tell you something, hear me?" Like, so I took, I literally have the book open and I'm writing it down because I
Yep.
deeply believe this. If you wanna secure a big bag, if you wanna win early and often when you're younger, be great at managing people. Be great at managing relationships. It's not something I was always good at, and I have,
And conflict. Remember, she said
and
conflict.
conflict, like
Conflict.
resolving conflict. Because when people experience conflict, what most people do is they either run or they
Just
speak
don't
in a very
communicate.
accusatory tone, and it makes the
Right.
situation a lot worse. They use things like, I feel. I'm guilty of all of these, every last one.
All of us. All of us.
But and we all are.
Yeah.
But learning how to secure that bag and how to win early and often, when you can learn to disagree with people and have a conversation that does not have to become toxic, and that does not have to become, because you can have a confrontation without it being a disrespectful confrontation. You can disagree in a way that's still respectful. And so learning how to do that is important. And what that starts with is getting out of your own head.
Yep. Ooh.
Because
You did that well.
I hear you, I said it from the book and you be saying it all the time. You be like, I wonder if this is just like a story I have in my head.
Yeah. A
Because
story I'm
that's what the
telling
book talks
myself.
about.
Yep.
What the book, I'm gonna find, it's right
That
there.
it's conversations you have with yourself. That's it right there. The
No, no,
orange
no,
book.
no. That's not the name of it.
Mm.
Um uh my goodness. I'm searching. Hold on. I'm gonna find it.
That's the OCD guys. That I should have never done
I
that.
have to find it because I know. Let me tell you.
Um,
But it is it. I'm gonna tag it down there. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. But it is such an excellent book, and the premise of it is that a lot of the conflict that we experience, and I'm bringing all of this back, guys, to securing that bag. A lot of the conflict we experience and the situations we experience that take us away from the bag, it
mhm.
comes down to the stories we're telling ourselves in our head,
Right.
and how we choose to interpret things, which in a lot of cases is not exactly how things actually are.
Right. So, for example, like some
Mhm,
of the things that I used to tell myself, or the story
mhm,
that I had was
mhm,
that I'm a fraud, I'm too young to be a CTO, and I don't know what I'm doing.
mhm,
Like it took me a while to realize, hey, you've been doing this shit for a very long time, and you're good at it.
mhm.
You know your stuff. Even like the other day in Vegas, like I realized that I do know my stuff.
You
And
do.
so it was just a conversation, a story I had in my head that I'm not good, but I mean, we all deal with that. And to be honest, it all starts with fear. If we could remove fear from every situation, I mean, we'd all be better off. And then things like um I have to do everything myself.
Mhm.
That stems from me feeling like I'm the only person that's good at this one thing. That is so naive, right? And what that does is it takes away from me doing the things that really matter. And so I had to learn to delegate, right? But
Yeah,
they're very toxic and you have to be very mindful. And even after you
I
told me
got it.
that, like you found it?
Crucial conversations.
Crucial conversations. There we
It's
go.
multiple
There we
authors, guys, but Crucial Conversations is this red book. Is so good. It has been transformative for me.
Yep. And the moment, so no, like you crucial conversations. Whenever I think that like I'm doubting myself, it starts with doubt. I immediately think this is a story I'm telling myself.
Mhm,
But before, when I didn't know that, when I hadn't heard about the term or didn't read the
mhm.
book, I just thought, it was just very, it was
And
just me in my own head.
and
Yeah.
and you know what's interesting is how that shows up for somebody who you're talking about doubting yourself, but for someone who's doubting themselves and they maybe feel like I'm not I'm not qualified for this, that, or the other. And that's
Mhm,
just a self-esteem thing, right?
mhm.
When that is the story in your head, then when you are engaging in conversation, that's what you're thinking about.
Ooh, yep,
That's
yep.
how you're seeing yourself. So someone is talking to you, this person don't even think that you are not competent or that you're, but
Or
because Mhm,
Yep, yep. Or they
mhm.
actually see you're putting it out into the universe and they're seeing it and then they just don't want to mess with you.
They don't want to mess with you. And
Yep.
so but to the point of conflict, a lot of the conflict that we engage in that leads to us dropping the ball, fumbling the bag, and missing out on opportunities, setting ourselves up to lose, and just create this cycle of losing for a long time. It starts with the stories in our head where we see ourselves one way, or we choose to judge people one way or another. And when we enter into any kind of situation where we have to dialogue or we have to problem solve, we're not speaking from a position that is balanced. We're speaking from the child in our head, from the ego in our head that's saying, well, you're not good enough, so this person must not think you're good enough. So if you think that this person don't think you're good enough, naturally you're going to be defensive.
Yep.
Naturally you're going to be aggressive. You're going to be confrontational because now you have to defend your ego and your pride. And so really getting out of your own head is hands down, like for me,
Yeah.
most of the bags
Yep.
I ever fumbled was because I was in my own head. I was caught up in whatever story I had going on, and I chose not to. I didn't have the skills at that time to say, hey, just because you're thinking it doesn't mean that that is what the reality is. And
Yep.
there are people who are in their 60s and 70s and 80s who still can't get this right. So
Right.
this is something you got to work on
And
real early.
this ties into what we speak about all the time about
Mhm.
self sabotage,
Self-sabotage, yeah.
where you're in your own head, things are going good for you,
Mhm.
and you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
You
And
are.
because you're waiting, you're in your head, you fumble the bag.
And to be honest, that is why we started this community. For me personally, I know that we have I am who I am, and everything. I looked at you at the show in Vegas and I told you, I know it sounded kind of corny to say, but well, I thought it sounded corny to say, but you said it wasn't corny.
Right. It wasn't. Right. That
I
was
told
you.
you that I was proud of you. And I told you like you really know your shit. Like I was literally just standing there because we were talking software and all this and like I can't I can talk about the business side with the customers, but all that tech stuff, like you were in it. And I was proud of you. And I articulated that. I felt like it was important that I said that, even if it did come off corny, and you said it wasn't.
I'm proud of
But
me, babes.
pardon me?
I'm proud of me too.
I'm proud of you. Yeah, I am. And you should be proud of you. But the point of that is that you got to be around people who affirm you. If you are naturally in your own head and you got this bag, you got these opportunities, if you are someone that's naturally in your own head and you are surrounded by people with dreams that are so much smaller than yours and who cannot fathom and thus cannot support and give you a word of encouragement, it's going to be really hard to get out of your own head. It is going to be
Yeah.
very hard to not sabotage yourself. And this is why, like, being in a community with people who are progressive, who are going for more,
Yeah.
who, when you tell them a big dream, they're like, hey, how we make that bigger? Being in that type of environment matters more than a lot of everything else, because you can do everything right, but if you're in a community with people, or if you're around people who reinforce self-doubt, who reinforce negative stories, your default is going to be to take actions that will eventually cause you to fumble the bag.
You know something, guys? If you do watch this episode, I really want you to comment and share your thoughts. And I love if it's not the exact same thing. Like, you don't agree with us. Like,
Mhm,
I am literally so immune to this stuff because we talk about it all the time.
mhm,
Like, this is the path we've been on for so many years.
mhm.
Like, I don't know anything else. But like Tahira said, this is, if you feel like, you're not supported, as not getting the support that you need, this community is for you, right?
It is.
We will always agree with you. I'm just kidding, but
No, we're not gonna always agree. We're gonna tell you when you talking nonsense, but we're gonna our thing is always gonna be go after your biggest dream.
all right.
It's disappointing that that young lady today, you see, she
Who
wasn't
you
about
on?
her stuff. The lady at the shawarma place, she wasn't about her stuff,
Oh
and
yeah, I was about to put her on, man. Like,
she fumbled a bag. She fumbled a bag, but this was what I thought an important episode. I'm glad we had it,
yeah,
because no one had these conversations with us earlier when we were younger, and because of that, we fumbled a lot of bags. We're still fumbling some, but we're taking a lot more over the finish line. And
yeah. And I'd like to say, before we sign off,
mhm,
out of everything that we said here tonight,
mhm,
the one thing that you should take away from all of this:
mhm.
focus is great, discipline is great, all of those things are great. But if you're likable and people trust you and they want to work with you, um, like, those relationships matter. Like, you preach that, Tahira, and like, it's only till, like, I mean, you always talking biz. You know, it just go through one ear and come out the next. But
Okay.
it that there, it's stuck. And like, guys, you treat people fair. You treat people with kindness, and
Yeah.
the universe will.
The universe will open. If you want to read a book, even before Crucial Conversations, Deepak Chopra, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, that remains a guide for me
Yep.
for life. And it talks about karma, and it talks about dharma, and it talks about the laws of giving and receiving, and the premise of it all is that if you don't want to fumble the bag, if you want to live a life of success, then be the kind of person that pours into others, be the kind of person that supports others, and be the kind of person that when people are around you, they grow, they elevate, or at least they have opportunities to do so. There will never be one big break. None of us will ever just wake up and just boom, we're
Yep.
successful. We have to stack a lot of small wins, and we stack those wins together. We stack those wins better when we do it together, and when we can multiply not just the value, our own value, but the value that we bring to other people. So yeah, that's it.
Lovely.
Lovely. Thank you guys for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in episode 5. Thank you. Ciao.
All right. See you guys.
Bless.